South Korea declared that they can send military aid to Ukraine. As a response, Moscow harshly reacted to the announcement, and Russian officials said they will support North Korea against South Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol has announced that South Korea could expand its support for Ukraine. He said that the support will be beyond humanitarian and economic aid in the event of a major civilian attack by Russia. This marks a departure from his previous stance of being opposed to providing military arms to Ukraine. President Yoon has stated that his administration has been actively investigating ways to assist in the defense and reconstruction of Ukraine, drawing parallels to the international aid that South Korea received during the Korean War from 1950 and 1953. The Korean president has remarked that in the event of a situation that the international community cannot tolerate, such as a significant assault on civilians, a massacre, or a severe breach of international humanitarian law, it may be challenging for South Korea to maintain its stance of solely offering humanitarian or financial assistance. This marks the first occasion on which Seoul has indicated a readiness to supply weapons to Ukraine over a year after ruling out the potential for providing lethal assistance. South Korea is a significant producer of artillery ammunition, and this country is a vital US ally. But the country has acted to avoid antagonizing Russia due to the presence of South Korean companies in Russia and Moscow's influence over North Korea. Despite increasing pressure from Western nations for South Korea to provide military aid, the country has attempted to tread carefully in its approach. Russia has issued a warning to Seoul against supplying weapons to Ukraine. The Russian government immediately told after South Korea hinted at the prospect of providing military assistance to Kyiv in the event of a significant assault on civilians. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitri Medvedev has expressed his disappointment at South Korea's stance. He stated that it was an unfriendly move towards Russia. He further cautioned that if South Korea were to supply military arms to Ukraine, it could potentially escalate the conflict by drawing in additional nations. Peskov remarked that providing arms to Ukraine would also signify a level of involvement in the conflict. Dmitri Medvedev, the Deputy Secretary of Russia's Security Council, has issued a warning that if South Korea were to supply weapons to Ukraine, the aggressor country could potentially furnish North Korea with Russian arms. Medvedev expressed his anger at Korea's apparent reversal of its position regarding the provision of weapons to Ukraine, having previously assured that it would not do so. The Ukrainian ambassador to Korea showed his gratitude to Korea. Dmitry Ponomarenko has welcomed South Korea's consideration of supplying military aid to Ukraine, and he appreciated the president's move. The ambassador also expressed optimism that South Korea would collaborate with other democratic nations in providing support to Ukraine's resistance against Russian aggression. He further stated his aspiration that South Korea would furnish cutting-edge Korean-manufactured defense equipment to aid in Ukraine's defense efforts. In January, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg has implored Korea to intensify its military support to Ukraine. He highlighted other countries that have modified their policies of not furnishing arms to nations embroiled in conflict after Russia's invasion. While thanking South Korea for its non-lethal aid to Ukraine, Stoltenberg emphasized the urgency of providing additional support, including ammunition. Korea has inked substantial agreements to supply hundreds of tanks, aircraft, and other kinds of weaponry to NATO member Poland. Nonetheless, President Yoon has cited a domestic law that prohibits the export of arms to countries involved in conflicts as a hindrance to sending military aid to Ukraine. President Yoon also underlined the upcoming danger from North Korea. President Yoon also declared his intention to pursue concrete results concerning the efforts of allies to enhance their responses to emerging threats from North Korea. In recent times, North Korea has escalated its military exercises, including the launch of its solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile, thereby raising concerns. Tensions have surged in recent weeks, with North Korea issuing threats of more practical and offensive measures in response to joint military drills between South Korea and the United States and declining to answer communication lines with South Korea. The previous Korean president Moon Jae-in made it his mission to enhance inter-Korean relations and played a role in arranging a momentous encounter between Kim Jong-un and then US President Donald Trump in 2018. The three summits held between Kim and Moon in the same year resulted in plays for peace and reconciliation. Unfortunately, the relationship between the two Koreas has since worsened, with North Korea conducting a number of weapons tests after a second unsuccessful summit between Kim and Trump. American politicians have suggested that US allies, including Korea, could provide indirect support to Ukraine's weapons supply by providing the necessary parts to the United States for weapons production. Nowadays, Korea has to pursue a proper balanced policy to satisfy all parties to avoid potential threats. Otherwise, the country has to handle problematic foreign policy choices.